Good morning and welcome to Retirement Tax Matters. I'm Adam Reed. It's our resident CFP, Garrett Crawford. How are we doing this morning, Garrett?
Doing good. Halfway through the year.
Mm-hmm.
July 1st is the day that we're recording it here in the Southeast. It's like, I think I saw the other day, 105 degree index. But good news, the USA won their first, or I guess what match is this?
This is the knockout stage.
The knockout
so
stage.
So they won. They did well in the group stage. Last game was a little bit disappointing, but then won last night. So red card, that was kind of a bummer. We got Belgium up next. We'll see what happens, but fun time to be a U.S. soccer fan.
Yeah, I feel like Adam's having to school me this year with his soccer. Did not grow up around this sport, so I'm learning on the fly.
Yeah, you got offsides down, which I feel like is most people's big hurdle. If I could think of one thing that's similar in the sports world to tax planning, it's probably the offsides rule.
I just thought, are you a hockey guy? Is icing similar to offsides?
I think icing has something to do with when you spray ice on people.
Oh, okay.
I think there is offsides in hockey.
Yeah, there's some rule. I remember playing video games as a kid, and there was some rule that was kind of like that.
Maybe we'll start a parallel podcast where we go into complex sports rules. As we cover tax rules and tax planning over here, we'll cover sports
Advanced
rules.
Refereing for high professional, high performance.
For all of our clientele out there that loves to get in the rule books. So anyway, I think good conversation today. You had this conversation with somebody that's coming on board as a client, and I think it's just pertinent for a lot of people. We see a lot of people that come in, maybe they're a prospect that's wanting to become a client, or maybe it's a client that's done a lot of work on their own, or maybe it's people we're hearing from on here, and it's this like 30-year retirement game plan. It's this big old binder, and it feels like so much, but it almost feels like nothing, and it kind of maybe can feel underwhelming. And I've heard you talking about maybe looking back 30 years to kind of talk about why that maybe feels like it falls flat compared to feeling like, oh, I've got all the ammo I need to take on retirement. It can almost feel like, what do I even have to take on my retirement?
Yeah, and so I feel like, especially when it kind of depends on where people are coming from and what they're looking for. But I feel like these days, and especially a lot of people that are coming from podcasts and listening to the YouTube channel, by the time they show up, whether it's via Zoom appointment or in person, and they're working with a financial planner, I think the 4 letters in financial planner that stick out is plan. Mm-hmm. People want a plan. And I think a lot of that is there's greater peace of mind when you have a plan. And I think, like a lot of us, a plan is usually a step-by-step instruction booklet. You know, I know I just built a grill a few weeks ago, and it was really nice to have step-by-step instructions on how to build that thing, because I'd never really built a grill before. And so I think it's a natural instinct for all of us to want a plan, something that we can adhere to do something we've never done before. And so I think the challenge, though, and it's funny, if a lot of you all could be in financial planner circles, I feel like this has been a last decade kind of thing where maybe planners in the generation before me, they were shifting from investment advice to financial planning. And so what they did is they started using financial planning software and printing off like these 60-page reports. And for a lot of people, it was really cool. It was like, you're actually going to give me something to help me with my savings and my spendings and help me know where I'm going. And so the industry went through this phase where it was like a 60-page printout you'd give somebody, and people kind of liked it.
And it was almost like the more you gave someone, the more work you did, so the better you were.
Yeah.
And it almost was like a reflection of, that's a 180-page report. They know what they're talking about.
Yeah. And, I think in some ways it's our human instinct. It's like, hey, here's my plan. This is really good. I'll refer to this during the year. And the problem has been, I think in the 10 years since this has become rather more popular, is that in the financial planning world, we hate giving those 60-page reports, because it's almost like, and you and I both know this, we can give instructions to a client. We can have, a list of maybe 10 or 15 things or 5 things that they need to do in between appointments. 15 is probably a lot. But, we're people, we're busy, we're doing other things. And a lot of times those things don't happen. And anytime you give somebody a stack of papers that big, they're going to look at it once, they're going to throw it in the back drawer when they get home, and then by the time they look at it again, their life is going to be changed. And so today's podcast topic is a public discussion of something I feel like I'm having with new clients all the time, and it's this idea that I'm a financial planner. I love a financial plan. It is very necessary, but let's not confuse a 30-year financial plan with something that is not what it's supposed to be, which is a one-time financial plan where you can come up with something in July of 2026 and you can refer to that in July of 2030 because life is going to change.
What is the old philosopher a lot of people like, Mike Tyson? Everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth, and so that's life, right?
Yeah.
We come in here and we put together this plan, and a year later we lose a spouse. 5 years later, market just falls off a cliff. A pandemic happens. That's something that wasn't even our vocabulary 7 or 8 years ago, and now it's something we're almost in the back of our minds planning for. And so I guess help me understand the tension then between we don't want to say don't plan, right? Oh, hey, just show up every year and kind of look at the tax return and we'll figure it out as we go. That feels a little bit like flying by the seat of our pants. But at the same time, too, I think to lay out a plan and say, this is what we're doing, no matter what happens, no matter what changes, we're sticking to this plan and this is what we're doing. That doesn't feel realistic. That feels almost impossible. And so what's the tension there, and how are you helping clients think through having a long-term vision, a long-term 30,000-foot view plan, but then also being able to navigate the year-to-year conversations around tax return-driven financial planning?
Yeah, so I would first start by, and kind of the discussion point I lead off with here, and I say, Mr. and Mrs. Joe and Jane Smith, I really value the importance of doing a retirement plan. We have financial planning software. It's called Money Guide Elite Pro, I think. And we use that with all of our clients because I know that people want to know, hey, what trajectory are we on? Where are we going to be in 15 or 20 years, 30 years? And the point is, if we look back in your life 30 years ago, anybody that's listening to this, and you think back to your 30-year younger self, I bet you wouldn't have predicted that you're exactly where you're at today, probably even close to where you're at today. If you look at your portfolio, you may have thought it was going to be way bigger or way smaller, or, health and sickness and life and jobs. You move all over the place. There's just a lot of things that we can't predict. My opinion would be anytime we get outside of like 1 or 2 years, it becomes, kind of a crystal ball of guessing. So we really want to be at this place where we're balancing 30 years into the future, but also today. And so the conversation that I have, it ends up being this idea we talk about all the time, tax return driven financial planning. There is a place for the 30-year projection, but oftentimes it's just hard to know what to do in the meantime. And so with these annual tax projections where we're looking at what's going to happen this year, it can kind of push back this idea a little bit that we don't know what the future is going to hold, but we can know what's going to happen income-wise for you this year. And so I kind of see it as like two sides of the same coin. When it comes to like goal setting, I think that's a really important thing for us with our finances. And it's kind of like, I was thinking about this earlier today, like dieting. It's kind of good to know what your goal is. Mm-hmm. Dieting is hard. We're not all nutritionists. We all don't know calories for everything, but you kind of want to know if you want to have a 10-pound weight reduction loss, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds, versus just saying out of the blue, I want to be, lighter. Mm-hmm. Having a plan and having something to shoot for is really good. And I think that's where the long-term financial planning software is really helps. But on a, day-to-day basis, that can become more challenging without the goal. And so when it comes to tax planning, this idea of we can take a guess at what your income projection is going to be at the end of the year. And if we know what your income is going to be at the end of the year, then we have a better shot at kind of avoiding some of these penalties that we can avoid.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe a good time, too, to touch on the year-end tax planning checklist of just helping people understand, because a lot of you maybe got a one-time plan or have something like that and you're do-it-yourselfers. Go check that out, because I think that would really add a lot of value to people that are doing, okay, I've got this plan in place, but now each year I want to kind of fine-tune and make sure I'm not missing anything, make sure I'm optimizing. Check it out. It'll be down in the description. Go to our website. You trade your email address for what I would say is some really, really awesome content that would really serve you guys well and give you an idea of what we do. And so maybe you go through it and you're like, hey, this is maybe above my pay grade. I need to talk to Adam and Garrett.
Yeah.
And we're taking on clients and love working with people like you in that $2 million to $8 million space. So go check that out. And then you get emails once a week with just case studies and different thoughts and maybe a little more anecdotal. I think some of that stuff's really fun just to read because it's like, oh, that's my situation. I hadn't thought about that. And so it's almost like having a conversation with Garrett through emails. He's given a lot of really good information there. So go check that out. Maybe to wrap us up for the day, could you touch on maybe an example of how you see this, of the 30-year plan, but then also looking at annually, maybe looking at maxing out the 24% bracket or something like that, just to give people a taste of what you mean when you say 30,000 foot view is good, but let's also be flexible and be able to pull some levers and press some buttons throughout the year.
Yeah, so I think about our kind of niche ideal prospect for this podcast, somebody that's got between 2 and 8 million. And I think one of the big things that comes up is required minimum distributions. And, a lot of people are retiring early at that asset level. Maybe that they're thinking late 50s, early 60s. And the way that RMDs are set up currently is that those don't start until age 75. And so there can be a very good desire. Hey, what is my RMD going to be 10 years from now? And I think that sometimes can be a really hard number to predict. And so we also don't know what spending level is going to be like, how they adjust to retirement early. And this future idea of how are RMDs going to impact my plan, again, it's something that we address. It's really important. But one of our videos, like understanding when to, go from the 22% bracket to the 24% bracket to maybe even the 32% bracket. Though it's a very critical ingredient of long-term planning. But what I find myself thinking with a lot of clients is when it comes to fall, September, October, November, we're sitting there thinking about RMDs, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, but then it comes back to, okay, well, what should I do today? Mm-hmm. And I think this idea of somebody that is between $2 and $8 million, their income is going to grow. The tax planning side is this idea that, let's say they're in the 24% tax bracket, and maybe they've got $40,000 extra before their first level or their next level of the Medicare IRMAA charge kicks in. We may not know if we need to go into the 32% tax bracket through Roth conversions, additional distributions, because things are going to get out of hand down the road. But we can look at that same scenario and we can say, if we don't need any more income, we know it's September, not a lot's going to change. We could go ahead and do a $40,000 Roth conversion, max out that 24% tax bracket up to that next Medicare IRMAA level. And I think that's a really good decision that helps us kind of break down this tension that we face with planning 30 years into the future versus what we know we can do prudently today. And so I think that's an important process for people to go through.
Yeah, and I think maybe to put a bow on it, that I've got 3 young kids, and so we road trip. Disney World's kind of on our horizon. We're not quite to Disney World age yet, but I just think about, if Disney World's the end goal, that's where we go. We've got the 30,000 foot view plan. Along the way, as parents, we've got to be flexible. Yeah. Otherwise, we're going to die in that car on the way there. Somebody's going to have to go to the bathroom as soon as we leave a rest stop. We're going to have to peel off and do something we didn't expect. Someone's going to barf in the back seat, and we're going to have to stop and clean that up. There's a lot of different things that aren't planned for and aren't expected, but every few miles we're going to have to check in. Are the kids okay? Are we all right? Are they sleeping? Oh, thank you, Lord. Everybody's in one piece, and as you go, there's just little detours and things we have to do. We're going to get to Disney World. We're going to get to the end of that plan and kind of accomplish things we want to do, but along the way, we're going to have an open hand and make different decisions that maybe we weren't thinking when we left at 8 a.m. that we have to be doing. And so I think in the same way, have the 30,000 foot view, have the plan that, hey, here's where I want to land in retirement. Here's what I want to do over the next couple decades. But along the way, just have an open hand that, hey, there might be an opportunity to do some more Roth conversions this year. Or, hey, there might be an opportunity to open up a donor advised fund and do a lot of my giving this year and have a big tax reduction. And so being open to those things, I think, is really, really impactful and can even boost your plan. Where all of a sudden you get to Disney World and you get the VIP passes. And you're like, oh, we crush it. This is great. And so I think that's what our encouragement would be, is feel that tension.
Yeah, and so I would maybe say, like, the 30-year plan that you have printed off that's on your desk that maybe somebody gave you a while back that you just don't want to look at. Adam and I would have the opinion that one. I don't know if I've ever printed off one of those plans and gave it to a client, but it's okay to have that. But real financial planning happens in small adjustments each year. So go ahead, print off the report, have that with you. But every year you're going to need to come to that same table, that same conversation. You're going to need to make small adjustments, small audibles based on the surprises that life throws your way that year. And that's where long-term planning really pays off, is with the small adjustments each year.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you guys following along with us. As usual, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, like, subscribe, follow, all the different buttons. We appreciate you guys being here. I'm Adam Reed. This is Garrett Crawford. We're Retirement Tax Matters.
Thanks so much for listening to Retirement Tax Matters. As always, the ideas we share here are for educational purposes, and we do our best to get it right, but this isn't a substitute for specific tax or financial advice, because a truly effective strategy is always built around your personal situation. For more resources and to see our full disclosure, visit us at retirementtaxmatters.com.